I'm from 6. I'm running through the 6 with my woes. My woes. My woes.
What kind of world are we living in? Still get questioned by my melanin. I get questioned by my language. Say I don't sound that African. Does the continent have one accent? I sound way too different. Change your skin like chameleon to get into top position like a FIFA referee. I hate to be playing the race card. That's where corruption be. Crying wolf and there's no foul. Talk proper then you're all snob. Talk black then it's no job. Walk black then it's all cops. All in effect with no cause.
Mama Daneta, Namuka Kuana, my head is under. Lula Kuanda, the Buddha Pate, my head is under. Mama Daneta, Namuka Kuana, my head is under. Mama Daneta, Mama Daneta.
Who we had and not
you?
Who we had and not
you?
Who we had and not
you?
Cause it's all that we
do.
Who we had and not
you?
Who we had and not
you?
Who we had and not
you?
Cause it's all that we Ain't never see me with my girl hand. You ain't never see me with my boy neither. Tell me that I'm gay, tell me that I'm straight. That ain't none of your business, nigga. I can fuck with what I want, get down when I please. If I'm down on my knees, why you care what I eat? Questioning my identity, apparently it's curiosity. Maybe you should dig deep, review your own sexuality. You wouldn't be out here bugging me if you had some understanding of who you are, instead of projecting fear onto society.
Mama Daneta, Namuka Kuana, my head is under. Lula Kuanda, the Buddha Pate, my head is under. Mama Daneta, Namuka Kuana, my head is under. Mama Daneta, Mama Daneta.
Who we had and not
you?
Who we had and not
you?
Who we had and not
you?
Cause it's all that we
do.
Who we had and not
you?
Who we had and not
you?
Who we had and not
you?
Cause it's all that we Let's talk about representation. Let's talk about the weight of a nation. Put on hold when you call one soul to represent a whole entire population. What is happening? This ain't Atlas. World's problems on your back, how do you balance? Opinions and questions that they be asking. The shine of a hero man you can't bask in without tasking people under your influence that could make a change. Many promises were made, but with no change once those votes were gained. I ain't into politics. I don't know how to run a country. What if we start with institutions that affect the society? What about the little black girl who's the only black girl in her own elementary? Polluting her mind with your history, teaching her nothing of ancestry. And what about Muhammad? He's afraid to go to mosque. You heard about Christ Church. Now he's questioning God, and whether it's his or whether it's yours, are the prayers not the same? If overall message is love thy neighbor, what are our actions saying? I'm trying to be a lion king, but Simba rapera. Ameno yukoko, Mama Naneta.
Go.
Mass, I'm free, I'm off the chain, chains dripping in blood diamonds. Poor black folk tired, but we won't be silenced. They killing our babies keep dying. Seeking asylum, inciting riots, there is a crisis. The world been sleep on autopilot, black bodies been piling. Told David it's time to slay Goliath. No, they kill you cause you're black, the lions say you ain't compliant. What happens to a system when the police are the tyrants and the people turn to violence? Uprising, revolution on the horizon. Out the ashes I rises with a venomous racist by Genesis. Raised by a pessimist, black excellence is evident. You ain't fucking with me. I stay woke, I have a dream, and until my people are free, we organize in the streets, our soldiers holding the heat. Be ready by any means. 500 years in the wilderness, young black hope for the children. Chilly in the streets when you black in America. The white man fear your fly. Better not step on my sway. Low furs, but a fur got more drive than a chauffeur. Fuck your closure, never lose composure. The military on the streets intimidating voters. Another black man go to jail so they can hit their quota. They policing like the soldiers, so what's the motive? When the order came from POTUS, the poisonous culture of racism is corrosive. History taught us don't trust anything they told us. Kin the kings and queens. I'm more prolific, my tribe been writing the hieroglyphics. speaking in cryptic, the girl is gifted. Too many brothers is angry, they do not get it. You let them play you, they made you another statistic. I'm numb now, the white man want me dumb it down. Rather see you run your brother down and pump him for the round. My round, is you kidding, is you playing around? Remember when you load them rounds and you round, spraying rounds through that playground. Banging for your gang, them bullets don't have no name and end up kissing the brain of an innocent kid with dreams on God. It's like a vicious cycle, bamboozled by all your idols. You niggas won't make the band cause you simpleton and you idle. I'm more idlewild, more entree 3-stack, more big boy with a big blunt and a cup filled with that cognac. I'm off Kanye, strong-willed like a field nigga. House niggas plot to kill niggas in the field, nigga. About to ill nigga, taking a life don't make you real. Realest shit I ever wrote was on the record called Real for Real. Claim your throne. Go. Rapping like Shawty, then free the real. Young Wheeler with the Panther flows. It's not a game to see the wave I'm on. It's all black till the Reaper come. Black dickies with the black chucks. Black cars with the black card. Nigga, that's nuts. Lord, watch over me and nigga, my act up. Swearing everything I know, I'ma stand up. Rozsa with the hammer. Line niggas sell us with they house nigga antics. I'll stretch your shit back like spandex, let me be candid. United we stand, divided the racists win. Willie lynched a couple niggas by their shoestring. Niggas trapped in the matrix, fuck is you saying? I drop bombs like Hussein. When they killed Ahmad, I declared war, re-crusade. To be guilty for being black and murder because of your race is insane. Hell is hot and these demons hunting for souls enslaved. The mind of my people, the devil got a hoe. Think before you speak, a man be lurking in the streets and he tend to prey on the weak. In this life there's no guarantees, but I know I'm as divine as my maker. Made it a divine likeness of the creator. I'm highly favored. I eat a fool little homie, won't even tip the waitress. I'm Cassius Clay with the hits, boy. Marcus Garvey built my business for the shit. I go crazy for my youngest trying to function in this bitch. See, we don't promote no snitching. If you ain't about that life, don't let me catch you in the trenches. They rapping with bad intentions. I'm rapping to free the guys out the penitentiary. Pray God open up the heavens, make a way for me to lead a generation lost. Trapped on the web, trapped in the net, trapped in the trap. The system wants you to hate yourself. Don't know your worth, chasing riches and hitting switches. Just hit a lick and kill the nigga in front of his children. Like, what's the reason for living? You niggas is illin'. The well is poison, they got us killing each other. We mourn our sisters and brothers and cover all of the mothers and fathers who bury loved ones. I don't care about your drip, you can drown in your wave. The water is poison and flame. Fuck is you saying? It's cold in these streets. Every day feeling like rain. See, I'm on a mission, it's no intermissions. Racists killing my people on camera, it's lethal. You think we free, but we ain't free, nigga. I had to go against the grain for you to see, nigga. Unlock the chains that place restraints against our race. Know who you are and where you from, now take your place. Go.
It's got me feeling like square pegs ain't enough. Got me wanting something beyond touch. It's got me feeling touch. It's got me feeling blue. It's enough. Blue, gonna make me blue. Feel the way I do. I've been feeling blue, and I've been feeling you, feeling it too.
I was told I'm emotionally intelligent, didn't know what to make of it, thought it was irrelevant, never heard of it, so I struggled to believe in it. But oxygen is in the air regardless if you're breathing it. Got me thinking find enlightenment comes to those who welcome it, never missed by those who don't acknowledge it. So the present will remain until I open it. The hue of my view will never change until I choose to.
Blue, gonna make me blue. Feel the way you do. I've been feeling blue, and I've been feeling you, feeling it too. If all trees are blue, are you rooted to what you do? If all trees are blue, is
charismatic. It's all about aesthetic. We can't make our mind up. We can't handle like we had a prosthetic. That's it, I give up. 21st century, welcome to contradictory. Brag long enough for a loss to become a victory. Problems of famine are replaced by obesity. World peace is less important than celebrity. Maybe there's hope in an Olivia Pope, but that will cause a scandal. Oh baby, that's a sin. No church closed unless it's true religion. You rascal, that's the only way that you will fit in. So get that ass up, get the gram up. Oh yeah, that's hella dope. Chop it up in salad. Reality becomes sanity. No wonder our Earth is known as the blue planet.
Blue, gonna make me blue. Feel the way you do. I've been feeling blue. I've been feeling you, feeling it too.
Whatever you do, don't let the cat out of the bag about meeting you-know-who in the grocery store and sending him where we did.
We went from ashy to classy, broke to fancy. You can take a nigga out the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out, nigga. All black immaculate flows, impacting culture, fighting off the vulture. Show you how to move in a room full of, okay? This Ray Charles and Ray James. Sam Cooke and Etta James Brown and B.B. King. All got it out of them streets. From the ghettos, yeah, the belly of the beast. If you sweet, get the trick and they gon' beat that ass. Always a preacher man with a preacher dad. And my cousin knows so where the feature at. And we don't feed the rats. OGs on wax, off the low. Legends birth from the ghetto. Rebels so iconic, we get it poppin'. If I like it, then I'm gon' cop it. It's done on auto. They don't like me cause my hair is nappy. Keep your head up, hang around by the Mally. Street cats creeping like Mr. O'Malley. Police's mission is to make you unhappy. Shoot them down, we finna light them up. A mother cries because she lost her son. Another one and then another one dying by the gun. In the game. Low key pimpin' got the fur on the back. Diamond in the back of the Cadillac. Rolling half on the sack, got to watch my back. I was cutting glass, moving work for half. Pulling up in the J, kitty purr like cat. Stay with the strap, bullets fly like bats. Bet that thing sang like scat, scat, scat. Catch you lacking a little nigga, make it snap, snap, snap. And if you smoking on the tree, pass the backwood back. Kool-Aid with the drip, got the juice in the bank. Now be headed with the braids, they pray I'm setting my ways. Cause self-hatred pays the police's way. They saying why, cause my afro shame. Still screaming fuck the regime. Still ain't accepting defeat. In the ghetto there ain't no guarantees. We counting receipts, don't fuck with the beast. They don't like me cause my hair is nappy. Keep your head up, hang around by the Mally. Street cats creeping like Mr. O'Malley. Police's mission is to make you unhappy. Shoot them down, we finna light them up. A mother cries because she lost her son. Another one and then another one dying by the gun. In the ghetto. Fuck is you talking about, bruh? We done survived apartheid, segregation, racism, classism, and every single motherfucking ism there is. You feel me, bitch? We out here, bitch. We out here. They don't like me cause my hair is nappy. Keep your head up, hang around by the Mally. Street cats creeping like Mr. O'Malley. Police mission is to make you unhappy. Shoot them down, we finna light them up. A mother cries because she lost her son. Another one and then another one died by the gun. In the ghetto.
Yes, this is the ghetto. Yes, this is the ghetto. Yes, this is the ghetto. Yes, this is the ghetto.
Ndotara chokwadi mfano yawe mfano ya kithi chosi mfano ya mfano wenyu andimsiye mfano yaenda kamurera ndiri wani but now his head is getting too big for his boots.
48 hours, $2,000, my dear, I fear the future ain't ours. Fame and the power, man of the hour, so clear, so near, but taste so sour. More like bittersweet, my tongue so viciously protesting how they speak, but they don't get me unless I add an inflection. Look into the mirror, don't recognize the reflection. I'm changing, but I doubt it's for the better. Mine is temperamental as Calgary weather. Mine blacking out, they just cut off the zessa. This life back home, but to you, that's whatever. You ain't never need to power up the generator. You ain't have to queue for fuel, cause why you're para. You ain't wait for change, cause Shikira Waneta. You ain't have to wish that your country was better. Go figure, the one complaining on the other side of the border. Went to get his degree, now he's feeling much bolder. Only 1 degree, so he feels much colder. But I burned that paper to keep my family warmer. The tale of nomad is quite sad. The boy, now a man, raised the son of a...
Hello, beautiful people. How are you today? Welcome to this Wednesday, July 8th in 2020, the most interesting year of many of our lives. My name is Makambe Simamba. It's my privilege to be here with you today to share space and to help facilitate conversation about so many things that have been on all of our heads and our hearts. I want to start with the spirit of acknowledgement. There are so many things to acknowledge about how we got here, both as individuals and as a collective. And so I would like to start our circle with acknowledging the land that we all have in common. Settlers be calling it Calgary, but OG, we know that the name of this place is Mohkinstsis. So it's very important to just like connect with and really think about what it means to be on this land and to shout out the land's original caretakers. So endless gratitude to the Blackfoot Confederacy, including the Piikani, Kainai, Tsuut'ina First Nations, the Stoney Nakoda people, including the Chiniki, Bears Paw, and Wesley First Nations, and of course the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. I myself am tuning in from Brampton, Ontario, which is traditionally the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit. So important to think about land and what it means to be here and on Turtle Island at this time. I want to acknowledge that the reason that we are gathered here is because of Black people. What that means is the recent resurgence of this wave of the Black Lives Matter movement has sent ripple effects all over the world. And the fact that white supremacy is being questioned and toppled is because several Black people have watched our community members die on screen over and over and over again. This is a conversation where we have intentionally brought together people of different backgrounds, people who are POCs. We're calling it the BIPOC panel, but it's important for me to acknowledge that I personally don't think that we would be here without George Floyd and what that means and how that affected all of us. And we will put respect on these people's names. I also want to acknowledge that we're out here in these streets. Like, I acknowledge that this panel is mostly of a certain generation, but we are definitely not the first people to do this work, not even on Mohkinstsis. So I feel like it's so important to acknowledge all of our BIPOC elders who came before us, and we're telling those people like, why'd you cast a white person to be in, can you not do that? So thank you for those who have paved the way for us to work and practice and even be able to have these conversations. I want to talk for a second about what it means to be a person of color or a BIPOC person. And all it really means is that you're not white. So here we are, you see all of these different colors and shades and different representations of heritage on your screen. But the only thing that is really bringing us together is the fact that we are not white. And so some of the language that you might hear me use during this circle discussion might be BIPOC, might be POC, but I am a Black person first and always. And the only time and reason that we ever use language like BIPOC is to talk about being opposite from whiteness. In that regard, I invite us to think of ourselves as people of the global majority. Because if all that means is that we're not white, then the rest of us comprise the most of the world. So I know that we often feel alone, but this panel is for us. This panel is for us who have felt alone in having not white culture or skin or whatever that means. And I just want to encourage both the people in the circle and everybody tuning in from home that, like, as people of the global majority, yeah, we get to take space and have conversations and come together and gather like this, and we get to be true to ourselves. That was a lot of talking. I can't wait for you all to meet this incredible group of people. So I'm going to invite all of the friends. I like to call all my POC friends cousins, so I'm going to invite all of the cousins to introduce themselves. And I would like to start with Pam.
Greetings. My name is Pam Tzeng. I use pronouns she and her. I'm a choreographer, a performer, producer of the live and contemporary, and also a movement educator. My practice is all about centering the Asian female lived experience and ultimately these past few years visibilizing white supremacy, white body supremacy. A few projects that are dear and close to my heart in past and present are that Chink in Your Armor, which was really about me grappling with the realities of desiring to have a voice and doing that through movement and object. And okay, sure.
And if you could let us know when to sort of go back from, if you know.
Okay, so should I start again? I can make it briefer.
No, Pam, say what you need to say. That's okay.
Okay, thank you. I'll just await Thomas to give the go. Hello, and we're back. So my name is Pam Tzeng. I use pronouns she and her. I am ethnically Chinese and I identify as Taiwanese Canadian. That's loaded. We could have packed that another time. But I work as a choreographer, a performer, producer of the live and contemporary, and I'm also a movement educator. My practice goes between the dance world and the theater world. And as a creator, my intention is to focus on centering the Asian female lived experience. And in recent years, my research has been about visibilizing white supremacy, white-bodied supremacy, which is very intense. So past work that was close to my heart is titled That Chink in Your Armor, a trio that dealt with having a voice as an Asian woman on stage. Recently and now I'm working on a project as artist in residence with Dancer Studio West. And the project is going to be centering and expanding to support and uplift the resilience of all bodies of color.
Hi, my name is Tenaj Williams. I use the pronouns he, him. And my heritage is my parents are from Guyana, as well as from the Turks and Caicos Islands. And I am an actor, performer, aspiring playwright that has kind of had the privilege of working across Canada recently. And a couple projects that are near and dear to my heart that I've done recently would be The Color Purple. Anyone who knows me knows that I was going to say that. Where I got to share the stage with all Black bodies that were beautiful and inspiring and talented. And then after that, I had the privilege of working on a production of Sweat by Lynn Nottage. And that was another role where I got to actually play a Black male. And it was incredible. And it's shaped the kind of work that I want to be doing in the future. And I'm super excited to be sharing this with you all.
Hello, Oki Kwekwe. My name is Zach Running Coyote. I use he, him pronouns. I'm of Mi'kmaq heritage from the east coast of Turtle Island, but my work carries the balance of representing my Mi'kmaq bloodline and the Niitsitapi people who are indigenous to this land that we call Mohkinstsis. Colonially, I work under the term playwright primarily, also as an actor. My recent solo show Snowblind, which was at Lunchbox Theatre with Making Treaty 7 right before the collapse of the world. That solo show, I'm turning it into a TV series right now for CBC. Well, it's in development as a potential series. So that's kind of the big thing I'm working on right now, along with playing Romeo for Theatre Calgary's Shakespeare by the Bow, or Shakespeare on the Skype. And my work centers around representing Indigenous youth in an authentic and meaningful way that brings hope and joy and acknowledges the places we come from, but doesn't sit in our trauma. My work is also about representing Indigenous elders in a meaningful way, and showing our grandmothers and grandfathers that the work that they've been doing for generations is taking root in a powerful way in my generation and the upcoming generation. So yeah, I use playwright, actor, screenwriter, whatever means to an end to represent these people and my ancestors in a hope-filled way. Yeah.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Wunmi Idowu. I am, my pronouns are her and she. I am a choreographer, a dancer, performer, an educator, founder and director of YYC Africa Music and Dance Theatre. Since 2006, we have been using the arts to transform social justice in the communities. The biggest event I've done so far has been Unganisha Explore Connect Dance. Unganisha means connect in Swahili, it's an East African language. And we're using that dance theater production to showcase modern dance styles that came from the African culture in the continent of Africa. And we've had 3 iterations of the production, and it has really changed the perspective of Africans who were stolen from their land and dropped off in Cuba, in Caribbean, as well as other places as the US, basically losing their heritage and trying to hold on to what they had and creating these modern styles of dance, which is not spoken about. It has opened up my eyes and the eyes of the community to the vast majority of the things that we have gone through, as much as empowering the community, the Black community, about their heritage. And as a choreographer, I was also privileged to learn the step dance choreography and be able to perform it also on the stage. So it has also challenged me in another dance form that I'm not used to. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Caleigh Crow. I use she, her pronouns, and I am Métis. I'm born and raised in Mohkinstsis on Treaty 7 territory. I'm happy to be coming to you from that same place. I am the founder and artistic lead of Thumbs Up Good Work Theatre. We are an indie, DIY, punk, anti-establishment, anti-capitalist, anti-the man theater company. We self-produce all of our work. So I have had many hats. I do producer work, I write, I perform, I direct. I do whatever it is that I gotta do. And my work at Thumbs Up Good Work always is about class struggle, metaphysics, and joy. As a Métis person, a bisexual person, I live in 2 worlds all the time. And I always want that complication of identity to be present and prominent in my work. Very happy to be speaking to you all today. Thank you very much.
Hi friends, my name is Jay Northcott. I use they, them pronouns. My heritage is mixed and complex. I am Afro-Indigenous, Athabasca Chippewa First Nation, and from the Caribbean all over the place. And I also have settler background inside of me too. My mom is half white, and I work constantly in the positions that I'm given right now to make sure that I'm upholding Black voices and Indigenous voices, because sometimes people think it's easy to use me as the Indigenous voice because I don't look Indigenous, and I'm here to lift all of those voices up. My art practice is, I love to do burlesque recently. I'm a director, I'm a playwright, and one of the most significant projects that I got to work on this year was actually with Makambe, which was called Blacktop Sky with Obsidian Theater. And it was the very first time I was ever in a room of all people of color, and that the whole entire cast was Black. And it was something that I'll never forget, and a thing that I didn't know I super needed until I got it. It was beautiful and heartwarming and lovely, and I continue to do that with my work. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Janelle Cooper. My pronouns are she, her. I am of Guyanese heritage, and I am the artistic director of Ellipsis Tree Collective, which is a Calgary-based Afrocentric performance society dedicated to the professional development and production of works by BIPOC artists. Ellipsis Tree has been around for approximately 10, 11 years. And as far as I know, is still the only Afrocentric theater company in Western Canada. I'm also an actor. I direct and I write, and I'm an acting teacher as well. My practice is centered around storytelling and the ways in which we can use various forms of storytelling to excavate the Black experience, the diasporic Black experience. Some projects that project that I worked on in the past, and one that I'm currently working on that is very close to my heart, are the Canadian premiere of Ruined, which was Ellipsis Tree Collective's first professional production in Calgary. And that's a beautiful show by Lynn Nottage about 4 women that live in a brothel in the Ituri forest. And currently, I'm working on a web series called The Call Out, which explores various forms of systemic racism. And sort of I use the show as a platform to expose and discuss, and to hopefully generate some really important dialogue, because I feel that for far too long we have been silent, and now there is an opportunity, this global opportunity, global platform for us to speak and to share, and for people to listen. And so I want to be able to take advantage of that on behalf of myself and on behalf of my BIPOC brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Hello, y'all. It's me, Chantelle Han. I prefer the pronouns she, her. I am an actor who also likes directing, but nobody wants to pay me to do that yet. And the type of Asian I am, I guess, if you're wondering, is Korean and Filipino, though I was born here in Canada. And a couple of projects that are really close to my heart are when I was able to do the Soul Pepper National Tour of Kim's Convenience. That story means so much to me, as my dad used to own a convenience store. It's the first time he ever heard Korean on stage. It was incredibly meaningful. The anti-colonial production of Medea, where I played Medea, and playing the lead in a feature called Circle of Steel, where it was about an Asian Canadian woman working in the oil and gas industry during the economic downturn. And the fact that she was Asian didn't really factor into it much at all. She was just allowed to be a person. And I think those stories are just as important. Thank you.
And I am Makambe. I might have said this already, but I'm a playwright, I'm an actor, I'm out here in these streets making art. It's my intention as an artist to be of service to my community through my gift of telling stories. So however that will manifest, I am always down for. My most significant work that is closest to my heart are the solo shows that I have written and created and choreographed and performed. So the first of those is a Chitenge story, which went up in Calgary, which details my journey of healing and releasing childhood sexual abuse. And the other project that is in and around my soul is called Our Fathers, Sons, Lovers, and Little Brothers. And it is an hour-long opportunity for an audience to witness my imagining of the beginning of Trayvon Martin's afterlife. I created that show because I knew that my Black community, we had not had time to mourn our son, our brother, our friend. We didn't have time because there was always another and another and another. Until today, there is still another and another and another. So Our Fathers is special to me because it continues to create a space for my people to mourn and heal and not have to explain any of that process. I want to say a huge shout out to Marcia and Jillian, who you will see on stage. What's a stage? COVID-19 is trash. On screen, doing our ASL interpretation. Thank you very much for being here and being a part of this conversation. We appreciate you very much. Speaking of stage now, remember when that was a thing? Think back to 1,000,000 years ago, when we used to think about practicing theater. I want to talk about one of the biggest, supposedly most prestigious stages in our country, which is the Stratford Festival. I have spent the last 1.5 years in the Toronto area, and the awareness of Stratford, I've noticed that it's bigger out here than out west, but I know that everyone knows what the Stratford Festival is. And if you don't, do a quick Google and you'll be like, oh, okay, cool. So the Stratford Festival was founded to do Shakespeare, and does work by other playwrights, but I was really stunned by the way in which the festival was beginning to respond to Black Lives Matter, and the conversations that have been happening there that have been broadcasted to the world are really interesting. So I want to start by reading just a small piece of their, I'm calling it their Black Lives Matter statement that they released after the turmoil of the last couple of weeks started to come to a head. So this is from Anthony Semolino and Anita Gaffney, so the artistic director, executive director. And this is the quote that I'd like to start with. As a company, we have upheld white supremacy in the past. It must be dismantled. Y'all, when I read that, I was like, are white people starting to admit that they've actually been upholding the thing? Is that happening? And I felt encouraged because I feel like this house, which is Stratford, that has all this power, would mean that all of these other companies would be like, oh, we upheld white supremacy too. And I saw not very much of that response from the companies in the country, much less in Calgary. Some of the really important things that came out of Stratford that week was there was a panel called Black Like Me, where Black artists came and gathered just the way that we are, sort of on this virtual circle, and just talked and connected and spilled tea about the truth of our experiences. So before that panel streamed, there was a hashtag on Twitter called In the Dressing Room. If you haven't checked it out, you should. And it was basically an opportunity for people of color to briefly share an experience that sort of encapsulated an aspect of what it was like for them to work as people of the global majority in a very, very white industry in this country. So I would like to do a version of that with the cousins today. In a minute or less, I'm just going to ask you to share what your hashtag in the dressing room moment or anything in the spirit of that was, and yeah, and then we'll go from there. Let's just do the same order as we did our intros. So Pam, I'm going to invite you to share first again. Thank you.
Thank you, Makambe. This is Pam speaking. So my anecdote or this one experience that I had, which should never happen, I hope ever again to anyone, was that I was on a project and we had finished, it was a theater project. We had finished a really intensive workshop period. We took a break before the production, and the question mark, who was going to be involved in the next stages, was a question mark. But essentially we kind of knew that eventually an invitation would come. I noticed a bunch of my peers were were going on field trips, and that a close colleague who was a castmate was also going, and I was like, okay, well, noticing that it was the cultural and language minority folks in the project that for some reason wasn't being invited to these excursions. And so I sent an email to the director just to express my curiosity and concerns about this. And this was my younger self, so I was very nice. I was very polite and careful with my words. And I got a phone call and had a horrific phone call experience where I was yelled at, told I was unprofessional, threatened that I would not work in the city again, that how dare I think something had to do with race. And after the phone call, young self just crying, and I realized, I look back at those emails, and what's so sad is that I emailed the director back and apologized for being unprofessional because I didn't know what to do. And they said, it's okay, don't worry about it. And we never spoke about it again. And so this is the fragility that we deal with. And I have dealt with other fragility instances, and that is not okay. So that's one example.
This is Tenaj Williams speaking now. My anecdote was I was working for a voiceover studio, and they brought me in to audition for a character who was, he was a Black character for voiceover work. And the director asked me to sound more street, or to sound more urban, as he put it. And you could tell he was uncomfortable with it. And so I did my best to give them what it is that they wanted. And, I didn't get the part, but, and that's fine. But the next day or that week, I went in to do another session. And one of the actors who was just doing a session after me or before me, was just waiting in the waiting room, actually, he knew that I didn't get the role because they had been talking about it, saying that they had brought Tenaj in for this role because they were looking for someone to sound, more Black or more street, and they were surprised that I couldn't do it. And he was not straight up laughing at me, but being like, and apparently you couldn't do that, so they had to get somebody else to do it. And it was like put on me to be this, I don't know, stereotypical Black voice that apparently I didn't have, and that it was hilarious enough to tell other actors that they brought me in and I couldn't even do what they were looking for. And I was I just sat there, and it was embarrassing. So I was like, I don't know what you want from me. I did the best I could. I don't know why that's not enough. But the fact that they were talking about it with other actors at the studio was not great. Thank you.
This is Zach running Coyote speaking. I went to theater school. I did a 4-year conservatory program that was tied to a professional theater company. So going into 3rd and 4th year, students had the opportunity to be cast by this semi-professional house in like up to 50 to 80 show runs alongside professional actors from within the community and hired actors from outside as well. And I auditioned for and was cast in the lead role in a show about a mixed race orphan who might be Chinese, might be Indigenous, might be anything, and gets every slur under the sun associated with any race possible, it seemed, thrown at him. And when I brought my concerns with, oh, the character also pretended to be the last of the Mohicans, so I got to don a headdress and do war cries on stage, so that was fun. And I was in this space where I'm like, I'm grossly misrepresenting my own culture, and I'm also being slurred up and down the wall for things that don't even, you know, the nothing about us without us thing. Well, there wasn't the them to be here to say I was told to be races that I wasn't, because I was the brown person in the room. And so when I brought my concerns to the director and the stage manager asked me if I was trying to erase racism from history, and these things are necessary for the play. And when I finally cracked a week before opening, the director asked me, the first question was, well, if you're not comfortable doing the role, you need to let me know now so I can hire someone else. And me, being in my first professional show, of course, said, no, it's fine. I just wanted to be heard. And I went along and did a 50-show run with conservative white Alberta audiences of 230 people a night, laughing their asses off at me being just slandered on stage for 2 hours. And I had people come up to me after the show and say things like, you know, you don't have to be one of those Mohicans to be a Canadian. You really don't have to be one of those. And then just walked away. And a guy came up to me once and said, thank you so much for doing this show and showing us that not all people like you are so sensitive to political correctness, and walked away. And I dealt with this for 3 months and was going through a lot of major trauma at the time. And after that was cast in the company as scenery for the rest of my duration there, and was always told that I needed to learn to be part of an ensemble before I could be cast in a lead again. So yeah, that was fun. I'm done.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Makambe, for that question. I moved to Canada when I was 10, and I've been performing since I was 3 in Nigeria. And the reason why I found it important to continue to showcase my culture in Canada. Sorry, I thought I pressed mute. Can you hear me now? Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll just start from the top. I started performing at the age of 3 in Nigeria, and I migrated to Edmonton, Alberta when I was 10. And I did not see what I was expecting and what I have been used to as a lead performer in schools, and performing and challenging other schools in the performing arts, whether that was acting, whether that was dancing, whether that was playing music. So coming into Edmonton, I didn't see my representation in the arts, and it made me more aware of the fact that ignorance was going to be an issue. So I used that platform to start performing culturally in schools to be able to break down those barriers of not understanding our culture. And I continued to perform when I found a group to tour around Canada and US with, and I continued to grow as a performer. And as I was doing that, I was also realizing that they weren't giving us room to showcase the vast majority of the cultures representing the continent of Africa, which is about 54 countries. I come from the most populous population in Africa, Nigeria. So I'm very aware of what and how big Africa is, and the cultures and the heritage that come from that continent. So being an African performer, I decided to create my own performing arts organization to distill and allow the cultivation of our culture to be preserved as well as use that platform to teach. So I had an opportunity to produce my first event in Calgary called Unity Dance Across Africa. And that production was to show different styles of African dance from the East, West, North, and South. And I was gonna bring together 5 to 6 groups. So I was able to get the Congo, Cameroon country, the Burundis country, Ghana, Nigeria, and South Sudan. And I was able to do that in an amazing way by looking for local performers that would never get the chance to be on stage, just because nobody wants to see their culture displayed. Nobody gave them an opportunity to come and showcase who they were as an African. So I did that, and I was applying for funding, and I applied through the Alberta Foundation for the Arts. And they always ask you to record some type of support document to show what you're talking about. And I was choreographing for the Nigerian piece with my company dancers from West Africa. So I got in the studio, I got a videographer, they recorded, I was able to submit it. Beautiful choreography. I got declined, and I asked questions. Why did I get declined? You know, this is a production that made sense, that would, you know, highlight these amazing cultural groups and allow Calgary to see us in a different light, that we are just not clumped in a country, we're a continent, and we have so much rich culture and resources that we would like to expel. I'm sorry, I'm very upset right now. The reason they gave me was that the peer support or the peer assessor, who was, by the way, white, told them that I was not being authentic in my Nigerian culture. The video that I submitted did not look like the West African dance style that was being shown in Calgary, but being taught in Calgary. And I had to tell them that West Africa had 18 countries, which Nigeria was one and is the biggest in the whole of Africa. And they said, sorry, they've made their decision, that's it. I felt so gutted. I felt so disappointed. I felt so let down that someone that doesn't even know my culture, that isn't even Black, can make a decision to dismantle what I was planning to do with my production. It was very, very horrific. And I started pushing ways to allow City of Calgary and those who are dancing to know that there's more than one style of dance in West Africa. And I've done that in different ways now with our Afro-urban dance workshops, where we have different style of dance to allow people to be able to enjoy the vast majority of styles of dance in Africa. And it's painful that these people are learning this style of dance thinking that it embodies 18 countries, which is not true. And I don't have the magical power to be able to inform them of their ignorance, because they need to do their homework. I was expecting, as a peer assessor, they will be able to understand that West Africa is big and Nigeria is the most biggest country in Africa. Just Nigeria alone has 2,400 ethnicities. How can you embody one style of dance, West African style, to 18 countries? It baffles me. So that's why I know that if we don't stand up in our cultural norms, in the truth that we know about ourselves, and dispel this information to the community, we will continue to be sidetracked. Thank you.
This is Caleigh Crow speaking. I've managed to avoid being in the change room period because I do not audition for theater companies. I do not put myself in those positions. So I acknowledge that I have benefited from that in terms of I don't have an anecdote from a theater company that has treated me poorly, because I have never once interacted with a professional theater company. Indie companies, I've seen lots of support from. I'm thinking of the big 5 down here in Mohkinstsis. I'll share a little story about a newspaper interview I had for our last show. Sorry, can you hear that wind? Should I close my window? Can we pause or you're good? Okay, it's really loud for me. Okay, good. We did our last show, Born Again Crow, about a year ago here in town. And in the first time ever for our company, we had a newspaper respond to our press release and asked to do an interview. I sat down with the journalist and my husband, who was doing live experimental music, playing a guitar with a screwdriver, which I thought was interesting enough angle to get some good promotion work out of this story. The journalist wanted to ask me over and over again questions about why I'm not performing in big theaters, bad experiences I've had. She wanted me to outline experiences in homophobia and racism that I've had. And I wanted to keep this about the show. This is my first promotional article in a newspaper. And I really wanted to tell you about the talking crow in the show. There's a talking crow and live music. That was where I was at. She didn't ask my husband one question. It was all about, you're kind of weird. Do you want to talk about how people don't like that you're different? And I really didn't want to talk about that. Again, embodying two different worlds, this happens a lot. My Canada Council application to be designated as a professional Métis working artist was denied this winter. I sit on the board of Theatre Alberta. I've been working for 10 years. I have shown my work in multiple provinces, in multiple cities, and I have no explanation for why I'm not considered a professional Métis artist. So I'm done with all of that. I want to keep this brief, so I'll end it there. Thanks again for the question, Makambe.
Yeah, mine comes outside of Calgary just a little bit. I did a show while I was living in Calgary and moving to Toronto with Arts Club and Citadel Theatre as we did Sweat by Lynn Nottage, which one of you has been in, but not the same one, a different one. And it's the only Lynn Nottage show that has more non-Black characters than Black characters, and people really, all these big theater companies are really attracted to it because they get to hire less Black people, but still do a Black playwright, which it's still a good play. I'm not saying it's a bad play, it's an amazing play, but it's the only play that they'll produce because it's a little less scary for them. And I was the assistant director on the play. The companies did not pay me. Obsidian paid me. They paid me $0. I got all of the money from a Black theater company to be the only Black person working on the show outside of the actors on the show. And then both times at opening nights was completely ignored, did not get any, nobody even called out my name. Daryl, like the artistic director of Citadel, forgot about me, and the people on stage had to say, like, don't forget about Jay. So it was like heart-wrenching because there was it's just one of those things where they tell you you're there to make sure that that the Black voice is listened to, and nobody listened to me.
Hi, I just I need to take a second to acknowledge the experiences that everyone shared so far, and just to say how deeply pained I am to hear about everything that you've been through, and just to let you know that I stand with you. So I worked on a show here a handful of years ago with a racist director who subjected myself and other BIPOC artists involved in the production to consistent verbal and emotional abuse, and even physical abuse in the rehearsal room. So damaging that one of the actors had to seek physical therapy post-production. We went to the theater, we went to the union, brief investigation ensued, which led to no action, and this director is still free to work and subject other artists to her tyranny. And so I would just like to tag just a couple questions to the to this. I want to know how we are supposed to feel safe and how we are supposed to feel protected in these spaces, and how unsafe and unprotected we are expected to then do our work to the utmost of our expertise. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Janelle. I know exactly what you're talking about. This is Chantelle Han again. And I just want to take my time here to give you just like a lightning round of microaggressions that I've experienced. And I will begin. Auditioning for someone, killed it. They said that they wanted a family, quote unquote. I asked what that meant. They just repeated themselves. And I thought to myself, why the hell are you even seeing me if you want to cast a family and waste my time, your time? You see my name, you see my headshot. If you know I don't look right for the part, please don't bring me in. Being told my English is so good. Thank you. Being cast as an opium den whore many times, or being sought out for that role, stereotypes. Having to vet scripts and talk to the director about their intentions before attaching myself to a project, because I don't want to be associated with something that's going to make me or my people look bad. I don't think that a lot of our white counterparts have the same experience or have to go that extra step to make sure that they feel taken care of. I've been bowed at many times. I think they think it's really respectful to me. It's not. I've been confused for other Asian people who look nothing like me. In fact, there's a joke where after watching, oh my God, what's it called? Oh, shoot. Oh, the Drowning Girls. Someone mistook me for Donna Suarez. So I always joke with the two Jamies that we're the cast of the Drowning Girls. I wasn't in it at all. Being on set and they don't bother to learn your name. They just kind of go, you there, or like you too, even though I'm pretty high up on the cast list. Not important enough. Makeup artists don't know how to do my makeup ever. And in the case that Janelle was speaking about that I was also involved in, I only felt comfortable speaking up and leaving the project because I wasn't on contract, I wasn't being paid. And because I had nothing to lose, it was really easy for me to be able to say something. But often we're really scared of losing our jobs. And so we swallow that and we don't. And I don't think we should have to be in a position where we can just go, screw it, before we feel comfortable enough to speak up. Thank you.
Makambe here. Just gonna put my host hat to the side and share an experience that I've been wanting to share for a long time. So my most recent work is called Our Fathers, Sons, Lovers, and Little Brothers, and it was always my intention to premiere this work in Calgary. I'm from there. That's where my people are. That's where the people who helped me further fall in love with this storytelling medium are. And that was always my plan. Our Fathers came out of the One Yellow Rabbit Summer Lab. It was my 10-minute solo. And after I performed that solo, I all of a sudden was on people's radar in a way that I was not used to. I had been writing prior to that. I had already written a Chitenge story. I had been sending scripts. I had been setting up meetings. I would show up to meetings. People would forget that they booked a meeting with me. People would not respond to my emails. I was not on the radar. I did this 10-minute solo. People who had been wanting to pay attention to me for a long time started to pay attention to me. Incredible, I thought. This is the big break. After that, Downstage Theater was like, we have some time and some money and some space and we have a room. Do you want a couple $100, a couple of days and somebody to work with to sort of jam on these ideas? And I was like, thanks, pals, let's do that. Then it was a question of who would I work with? How many Black actors were in the city and were nourished enough in the city to be able to stay and work in the city full time. I felt like I didn't really have anyone in my community who could do that, because Black people who were working there before always had to leave and come back to be able to work consistently, even though their talents are enormous. So I ended up inviting a woman who worked at ATP at the time. She invited me into the playwrights unit at ATP, saying, I don't think this is a good show for ATP, but I think that I'm interested in it personally, which I'm not sure what that meant. I would later come to know that this white woman was interested in dramaturging and directing a piece about the Black experience. Cool. Who was I, though? An unproduced baby playwright. I hadn't even done a Chitenge story yet. All of a sudden, I was having conversations about plays and playwriting as a playwright that I had never been equipped to have. I didn't know what I was doing. Sure. So me and this woman on Downstage's dime, and like offered to come and work on the play, worked and workshopped and sort of jammed for a couple of days, and it was awful. I felt completely bulldozed. She didn't know what she was doing. I felt like she was trying to write the play through me, and like, this piece is not just a play, it's a prayer. So that was really hard. Downstage later expressed interest in producing the show, which I was like, amazing. And they were like, let's do it next season. And I was like, oh, what's happening? Cool. Yeah. Wow. What is this happening to me? But I didn't know how to own the fact that I'd had a terrible experience working with this person. I thought to myself, if this person has Canadian theater heroes royalty on their resume, who is young, Black, unproduced Makambe to feel like she sucked? So I doubted myself, and I did not know how to advocate for my needs at the time. I then was encouraged by this person to apply for the Banff Center Playwrights Lab and to list her as a collaborator. What I didn't know at the time was that like you could list anyone in the world, even if you hadn't met them, as a collaborator. But she told me to list her as my dramaturg, and I did. I got into the program. I thought that it was because of her. I thought it was because her resume was so impressive, and that it was not actually on my own merit and my own work, because I was a baby playwright at the time and I was just following advice. I had a conversation with Downstage. This is a few artistic directors ago. I had a conversation about being like, yeah, I'm into this production, like, awesome, thank you. But like, this is not the person I want to work with. And the conversation that I had there was, okay, well, who are the other directors? And some offers were made as to people who were a possibility, but none of them were Black. Who like, and maybe we could call someone in, but I didn't know who else was Black and working outside. So I'm like in this situation where it's like, I want to get my play produced. This means everything to me, but at the same time, like, I don't know how to go about it. So we say that that's going to be a conversation we'll figure out later. Cool, the vibes were good. Go to Banff, and I'm having the worst imposter syndrome because I'm sitting across the table from people I wrote papers on in university. I don't think that I deserve to be there. I have a freak out so bad in the first couple of days. I left, went to Calgary, slept in my apartment, cried and prayed a little bit, and then came back and was like, maybe this is gonna be okay. I worked and did a reading of an early draft of the show. And I just invited all of the playwrights and all of the actors to come and see. And one of the people sitting in the audience was Catherine Hernandez, who's a queer Filipinx. She's my auntie, she's my tita for life, who runs an organization called Be Current in Toronto. And yeah, she saw it and she goes, I'm really interested in the show, I'd like to program it. And from there, she kept her word. We'd met once then. From there, this woman who had never met me, she didn't see me go to a merge. She didn't see me, you know, here at readings, volunteering at stuff, doing all, like, this woman she was like, this work is I want to support you. How do you want to do it? I will help you do it how you want to do it. Cool. Meanwhile, this white woman who was working at ATP at the time, who had to come up as my collaborator, came up and basically sat me down and said that she had found out that I was getting produced by Downstage, and she was really, really mad at me. And she dragged me for like an hour. Makambe, we invested in you. Makambe, why didn't you tell us? And I was like, but you said that it wasn't a good fit for the theater. well, we still would have liked to at least been able to congratulate you. Makambe, didn't you say that you want your show to be done for youth? The YMCA has approached us and they wanted to see a show that we could tour to all of the different YMCAs. Like, now you're missing out on that opportunity. And like, what you should have told us, this is rude, this is disrespectful, all of this stuff. So then I spent 2 days apologizing for doing some shit that was not, I had every right to do that. I was not contractually obligated to disclose any information that I wanted to disclose. I apologize. I feel terrible. I feel like I let people down. And ATP is a place that when I was in school, that was like the dream come. I was like, I want to work there. They do new plays. Like, yes. I was like, wow, John McLeod, wow, ATP. That was my energy. So I'm heartbroken and I'm fucked up. I reveal that I had not yet signed my contract with Downstage. The contract was sitting in the office with my name on it. I just had to come and sign it. She says to me, well, that kind of changes the conversation. And long story short, she poaches me. She makes me all of these promises about the ways in which ATP is going to support and do my work, including a commission of a couple $1,000s, that she should sign on as dramaturg, that like, Makambe, we're ATP, we can get anyone you want to direct your play. Do you want Janet Sears? Do you want Janet Sears to direct the play? Nobody had talked to Janet Sears, by the way. But like, if that's what you want, we're ATP, we're a bigger company, we have an engine, we can do that. We can also do the school tour so that you can connect with youth. I was promised all of these things and I didn't know what to do. I took a few days to think about it. On the one hand, I had a company who I felt like the mandate worked with my play, and I just had a lot of love for those folks and I trusted them. But on the other hand, it seemed like I had what was a bigger platform. So I thought, Makambe, what's the intention of the play? It's to reach as many Black people as possible. So for that reason alone, I decided to go with ATP. I burned the bridge at Downstage. People were not happy with me there. And to an extent, I get it. But also I was having really mixed messages about the ways in which I should and should not take ownership of my work. So cool, we're gonna do it at ATP. We're gonna take another year to write it because like that was not gonna be enough time. Cool, meanwhile, there's this connection with B Current. So I did 2 weeks at the B Current residency to work on it. And I finally had a Black director. Audrey Dwyer, you saved me. I finally was invited into the room as an equal. I wasn't being questioned. I for the first time in forever. At the end of that 2-week period where Audrey and I, we vibed and we just got into it, and I grew as a writer because I was that trusted and loved. 2 white folks from ATP came to watch the reading. The reading went incredible from my opinion. There was about 30 people there. There were maybe 2 of the only like 3 or 4 white people. The ways in which the Black people and people of color in the room were breathing and laughing and sighing was very different than these 2 white bodies. And that doesn't mean they didn't like the show. I have no idea. But what I would like to offer is that like, if those 2 white people represent the lens of how art is curated in Calgary, when the rest of the audience is a sea of emotion, that's a problem, y'all. I never knew what they thought of the show because when I came back from Toronto, I had radio silence. They didn't reach out to me. They didn't say anything. They didn't give me any feedback. There was nothing. Akuna Matata. I was like, so I had a feeling something was weird. I booked a meeting with this particular white lady, and I asked basically like if this was still of interest to ATP. And then that is when she told me no. And she said, we don't have money this year. And, basically we can't do your show in the Martha Cohen, and we can't because like it'll be too big. So if the company had run out of money or whatever those financial troubles were, that's fine. But I should not have been promised these things that were not delivered. And I should not have been screwed over from another opportunity because those folks were actually ready to do my work. So now here I am as this Black artist. I love Mohkinstsis. I want to, I am the answer to so many people's problems. I'm good at my job, y'all. And now I have this play where it was supposed to premiere at ATP. B Current was supposed to receive a tour of the show. So B Current had tour money in terms of budget. So then basically the production was screwed over. Catherine Hernandez says, you know what? I still want to do the show. We're going to figure out how to make it work. So this woman stretched this small money with which she was only supposed to receive a tour to produce the show. The show had a 1 week run instead of a 2.5, 3 week run, because that is how they had to stretch the money. Catherine pulled out personal favors with people and just hustled and made it work. I have 2 Dora Mavor Moore awards because of that show. And to this day, it has not premiered in the city that I'm from. It's because of that shit. So, therefore, the such as, don't worry, DJ, I'm gonna bring that back. Thank you for giving me the space to air this. So then I came to Toronto and I stayed, and people were salty with me for leaving. When now the show had premiered, some folks from Calgary came out to see the show, including someone from One Yellow Rabbit, who said that they were interested in the show. Cool. After the show happened, I heard nothing from One Yellow Rabbit. Sorry, just got distracted for 1 second. I heard nothing from the people from one of the parties who said that they were interested in the show. I heard that there were meetings happening about talking about possibly programming it at the rodeo, but I was not privy to these meetings. I'm lucky that the other party who was interested just was honest and told me like this meeting happened, but my art was being brokered by white people and I was not invited. They don't treat Daniel McIver like this. But when it's Makambe, it's just supposed to be cool. So lots of things happened. And then of course that white person working at ATP moved to One Yellow Rabbit. I didn't hear anything. Weeks passed, other opportunities came up. I filled up my schedule in the way that I could. Then I get an email from that exact same woman the day that the Dora nominations came out. Oh, Makambe, your show, no acknowledgement, no apology, nothing. So my show has not been produced in Calgary because those are the types of shenanigans that I have to deal with. And those are the types of shenanigans that we all have to do this. And it's not even like I don't want to do it there, but the energy will be right. The way that I would like to move forward is that no more sacrificing, because I'm carrying my people on my shoulders. I'm carrying everyone you see on this screen on my shoulders. So I will move forward with integrity. And if that means waiting 5 years or 10 years or never to do a production of this play that will actually energetically honor the Black folks on the land and in the world, then I'm okay with saying no. Thank you for listening to that. I knew that took a little bit of time, so I just appreciate you all receiving me and receiving that. And for all of the cousins tuning in from home, I know that a lot of you have stories like this. I know that a lot of you have some versions of this. And so when you are in those moments where you don't know how to process, or you can't believe something like this happened, just know that we are also experiencing it too, and we're not alone, and we don't have to be alone. Okay, I have a question. I have all the questions, duh. So I spoke a little bit about feeling like I had to leave Calgary to be able to have a full practice. I would just love to see a show of hands as to of the artists who are here in the circle. Please raise your hand if you feel like if you have left Calgary so that you can have a more fulfilled artistic practice. And just keep your hand raised. Okay. And if you haven't, raise your hand if you feel like you have to leave Calgary in order to have a fuller artistic practice. Everybody watching, I just want you to take this image in right now. Thank you. Janelle, I know that you have practiced a lot in the Toronto area and other places as well. And I'd like to ask you, as an artistic leader and as a person who, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were trained in Calgary as well, right?
Yes.
Yes. So from the experience of being a student, being a person, an actor and a director and a creator, and then producer, if you had the superpower to let like the white artistic majority in Calgary just understand one thing, what would it be?
I think it would be, sorry, I'm feeling extremely emotional right now. So bear with me. I think that it would be the lack of safety. I know I brought it up a little bit earlier when I was recounting my experience, but it's just something that just keeps echoing for me over and over and over again. I've been in so many rooms, whether it's a workshop around a workshop shop table, in a rehearsal hall, walking into a meeting with a theater company, so many various artistic spaces, and I can tell you that maybe 2 or 3 out of those, possibly like 70, 80 times, have I felt even a modicum of safety. Safe to be, safe to be in my Blackness where I don't feel exposed or vulnerable, safe to express, safe to share, safe to communicate, safe to argue, safe to create, safe. There's such a lack of safety. And, I know now that I'm moving more into directing, and I worked on a few different projects, one primarily Black cast. But the safety that needs to be created and maintained in that space for me is the same for a Black or BIPOC room as it is otherwise. We all need to feel like we can thrive as artists in an artistic space without fear of without feeling like we won't be understood or heard or supported or loved. And so that's, if I could superpower it to the white artistic leaders out here, it's creating safe spaces, maintaining safe spaces, developing language and rhetoric around those safe spaces so that we know when we walk into that space that we aren't fighting for our lives and fighting for our work. Because I feel like every single time I am fighting just to be. And with something that I'm so wholly passionate about and that I've given my life to, that I've given so much service to, I should just be able to go into a space and do it and share it. So, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, 100. I vibe with that very heavy, and it seems like the circle agrees. Zach, I would like to ask you the same question. If there was something that you could superpower, just like make some folks understand, what would that thing be?
I, as an Indigenous playwright living with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, also untrained as a playwright, trained as an actor. I've been graduated for less than a year. I'm not going to write as many plays as Hannah Moscovich has in 10 years because I'm doing 3 times the amount of work in the rest of my life. And I wrote a play called Cookin' Me, which is a folk musical set on a Greyhound bus where I play myself and a Native grandma, and it's about the reclamation of my indigeneity and my faith and my body. And it's quite palatable. It's fun, it's uplifting, it's a musical. I've produced it. I produced it for Calgary Fringe last year, and we all know how many people come to Calgary Fringe. No one will produce it because it's been done. So I'm producing it again with Canada Council money and with help on the presenting end from Sage Theatre. But Sage isn't producing it, I am, because it's a company with no money. Because the companies with money all want to produce. Like, I have been spoken to about so many commissions in the last month since Snowblind got picked up for TV development. Suddenly everyone's like, oh, we want your work, Zach. But I'm like, okay, then I have work that isn't done. Stop asking me to write more. Like, I can't be writing 5 plays at once. And I wish that companies would just start listening to the work that playwrights want to create. Well, the work that BIPOC playwrights want to create, because white people can write about whatever the fuck they want. And I'm like, I don't even know what this play is about, but you've put 3 times as much money into it as you're going to put into any BIPOC play. And the restrictions that are put on me as a playwright, like I get told this needs to be intersectional. And I'm like, okay, well, my play's about like my Christian upbringing and my indigeneity intersecting. My new play is about urban Indigenous people raised by white people intersecting with Indigenous folks who live on the street and have spent their lives in the justice system. That's intersection. But no, I found out that intersection for Indigenous people means there has to be non-Indigenous people on stage for us to intersect with. White people can intersect with themselves. We can't intersect with ourselves, with each other. We have to intersect with white people. Otherwise, it's not intersection. And I'm like, y'all didn't even make up that word. Like, that's not even what intersectionality means. It doesn't mean a white experience and a Indigenous experience together on the same stage. So I don't know. I want to write plays, but I want to write the plays that I want to write. And if 500 people have seen my show, that's not going to stop you from producing it here. So I'm just really disappointed that I've never had a show produced by someone. I also produced the Lunchbox show. I received money from Canada Council for that and did all the work. So like, kudos, thank you, whatever, to these companies that are presenting me, but I know you got money to produce work. So stop expecting us to do consultation work for you, writing work for you, and also write our own grants, because you don't expect that from Hannah Moskovich and Daniel McIver. And that's why they can write 18 plays in 10 years. I'm not gonna write 18 plays in 10 years. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I am finished.
I would like to find a mic somewhere just so that I can drop it. Yes. Okay. Everything that everyone has just said. I'm going to pass it on to Tenaj. Tenaj, same question. If you had like a superpower just for like 10 minutes and it could only make white artistic leadership and other white artists understand one thing, what would that thing be?
I'm completely overwhelmed, truly. There's so much brilliance and strength and beauty and everything that everyone has just said, and it's fully overwhelming, and it's inspiring, and it's just the strength in spite of that really hits me. But I wanted to kind of tag on to what my friend Janelle had said about needing to feel safe in these spaces, and echo it in the sense that it's so essential. And I think a great way to start is with an actual apology, because moving forward, I feel this climate of like, if there is going to be change, which I'm praying that that there's going to be more inclusivity, we don't want to feel like numbers in a room, because we definitely know, especially the actors in Calgary, we know the directors that consistently only work with white artists. They will probably continue to work, probably. How do we feel safe in those rooms if we know that they wouldn't have even seen us before, but all of a sudden we're all getting asked to come in now because we were not valued previous to this? So now that if companies are forcing and and trying to push more inclusivity, and we get invited into the room, how are we supposed to feel safe when we know that we're probably not really wanted there? And I think a great starting point would be apologies and ownership of failures. Because I have heard a lot of people when everyone will talk to you about how inclusivity is important. Everybody will say that. But when the time comes and they're putting up shows with all white faces, the best thing I've heard is people saying, well, we did our best. You know, I went out there and I tried to audition as many people as I could, and I just couldn't find anyone. And I've heard those conversations, and I've heard people in response to that being like, yeah, absolutely. And they're almost like sympathizing with that person. And that's crazy to me, because that's not an apology whatsoever. In fact, I would happen to say that that's just kind of an excuse for you to do whatever you want, because there were no negative consequences and there's nothing moving forward that would stop that behavior from happening again. For me, working with certain people, even certain companies, there has to be an apology. There has to be something to let us know that we are welcome in this space for who we are, not because of what you want to do in a movement, not because you want to check a box saying that we have to be diverse, but because you value the talents that people that are not in Calgary value. As we've found, as the people who have left, we've found value from people outside of Calgary who see the value in our work. And we are still trying to find it here in Calgary. So if that's going to change, there needs to be genuine apologies, not just from companies, but from actual directors, if they're hoping to work again, saying that we failed. We understand that we failed. We want to do better, because how are we supposed to just enter spaces that we don't feel like we're actually welcomed at? Do you know what I mean? How do we not feel like we're just a number? And that is just me speaking personally to say that there has to be something. There has to be something. I don't understand what we would lose by doing an apology, but are you wanting to move forward with actors feeling like they absolutely belong in these spaces, that they have a voice, that they're not just character number 4 in the back that you put in for a scene and a check mark? Because that's what I feel like oftentimes. And there's definitely certain directors out there that I'm sure we all know in this circle that I would have a very hard time working with, because I know that they typically do not hire persons of color unless the role specifically calls for that, which we will not praise you for. Straight up, we're not going to praise you for that because you did the bare minimum. How do we be the best selves that we can be? Because personally for me, I know that when I get into those rooms, I feel like I have to be better than everybody else. I have to be at a different level, because I have to prove every single time that I deserve to be there. I have to prove to anyways, I feel like I went on a little bit of a rant there, but I think that it's super important to, if we're going to start creating spaces, we need to create an acknowledgement. We need to apologize, not just say that, and acknowledge that we messed up. And there's grace for acknowledging that. There's absolutely grace. For me especially, just hearing that would mean the world to me. Thank you for listening to me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tenaj. This is Makambe again. I think that what people don't understand, that the death of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all of the people who we're talking about, what does the death of George Floyd and the artistic leadership of Calgary have in common? White supremacy, white supremacy. Those things exist in the same world for the same reasons. That whiteness is hailed as the ultimate and the everything. And so the same reasons that we are so, the same reasons that we have to have these conversations are the same reasons that our siblings are being filmed in their executions. It's the same thing. And so when you're in a system of white supremacy, you have two choices. You're either upholding it or you're disrupting it. And silence is upholding it. I feel like what I want white people to know is that, like, if I had the superpower, wow, there's so many things. If I had to choose one thing, it would be just for them to know that we talk about them, that this circle that's happening right now has been happening for years in bars and at people's houses and on the street after a show and like on cigarette breaks and in text messages to support each other. Like, I wish that there was an awareness of the fact that, like, they're not the only ones who can have conversations about who's difficult to work with and, you know, what kind of, you also get talked about. Who do you think you are? You think you're the center of everything. You're not. Jay, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I got a couple things, just some quick things. Janelle, I wanted to go off a little bit of your point as well of saying like creating safe space, but also creating spaces that we can make mistakes. It is very scary being a person of color making a mistake in a room, like the fucking scariest thing, because your mistake is way bigger than anyone else's. And even if people don't believe that, and they say that they don't treat you differently, they do, because you know what? That fucking director does not see themselves in you. They do not see that their young selves in you as a white person. They don't do it. And if they say they do, they're fucking lying, because they don't understand what we're going through. They don't understand those things of us being in the room. And that there has to be a level of, when I make a mistake, you have to take the ownership of understanding that we are all making mistakes. And I have friends that have been in these systems of that they know that director treated them differently when they made a mistake, or they didn't know their lines when other people knew their lines way differently than they would have, like Bill, Joe, Mike, that fucking has the same amount of lines as this black person, and then they're okay with it because that person they see themselves in them. They see the mistakes that they make as young people. I would also like to add the one superpower I'd like to have that would change Calgary. The reason why I fucking left, I lived here in Toronto for 1.5 years, and every single person in Calgary told me that I was not going to be successful here. They said it's too hard. The city, all these people are going to fucking hate you. They're going to be like, oh, you're from the West Coast, you know, like. And so many people said it's so much harder there. It's everybody here is like, everybody in Toronto is cliquey. No, you guys are fucking wrong. Actually, you guys are cliquey. The issue that happens is I'm afraid to say that like that Theater Calgary or fucking like ATP or any of these companies or the Citadel in Edmonton, like when people are like, oh, you can't talk against those companies because they're the only ones that are going to hire you. Anyway, my point of this is that when I came here, a company gave me almost $100,000 to direct a play. And that's all I asked from every single company, to give me a chance, because how many plays did we see at fucking ATP, Theater Calgary, at all of these plays that were directed by old white men or old white women that sucked? And then next season they had another fucking show and another season, and it sucked. And you're telling me because I'm young, I have no ability to, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just a fucking baby, just like a little brown indige baby that doesn't know what they're fucking doing. Like, I'm not stupid. I went to school. And school doesn't even fucking matter. I work hard. And you're saying that I can't make a mistake. If the show did suck, I would never get hired again. But when all of those shows fucking suck and everybody's freaking bored, we're still hiring that same director over and over again. So take risks. Don't be such a little chicken. I cut off chickens' heads when I was growing up. I grew up on a farm.
Cluck, cluck. Jay Northcott, cluck, cluck. Wunmi, I'd like to pass this to you. If you had a superpower to be like, understand this, what would it be?
Thank you for the question, Makambe. Wow, a lot of very insightful and amazing conversations happen here. And I really appreciate the openness that everybody has allowed themselves to be vulnerable, to be able to speak on their lived experiences. If I had a superpower, I would allow them to be Black for 24 hours. See how it feels. See how you get treated. And I think that would really help those experiences after coming out of that 24 hours to check your thoughts, your actions, your perspective, your biases. I would definitely allow them to be Black and see how difficult it is for us to be able to thrive, for us to be able to have a need to continue to build our artistic practices. So many amazing artists are out here in Calgary and they just don't have the access. That's why the production we have always has Black actors, and we focus on the actors that don't get a say, that are not on those big stages, that have never even acted in Canada. And it's difficult finding those actors, by the way, because they don't even feel that they're good enough. They don't believe in themselves because they've been told no. By who? Why? People that don't know you, that don't understand your struggles, that can't identify what you're trying to say because you have an accent. 24 hours in our skin would change that narrative. Thank you, Makambe.
Thank you for that, Wunmi. I have another question, and then before I pass it on to Pam. Wunmi, I know that I have seen you over the last few years build. I would love for you to please talk a little bit about your work. I'd love for the folks at home to hear about Unganisha and the event and the ways in which you went about doing that hard task of how do we get people together? How do we build community? Because I honestly, sister, I think that you have done brilliantly. And I think that we all have so much to learn from you.
It takes resilience. And that's something that I've learned as an African. We are always being looked at as corrupt, dirty, unworthy beings because of what the media has played us to look like. So being who I am and the opportunities that I have received from my elders and the stories I've heard of the greatness that lives in me makes me want to continue to grow. I've heard so many no's that it doesn't even discourage me anymore. Like, I laugh at no's. There isn't any space for me. That's why I had to create Ways to Africa. No one has contacted me to tell me to come and perform in a theater company in Calgary or Edmonton. Nobody has said, I would like to collaborate with you. I do a contemporary piece, you do an African piece, let's merge. They don't see the talent. They don't see the difference that I bring with my culture and my heritage. And it's hard when you don't have that space and that appreciation of your talent. So I decided to create my own. You know, if they don't want to let you sit at the table, go and create your own. And those who have come across with me know that, you know, I don't take no for an answer. I've had people from Calgary Arts Development tell me that I buy too much that I can chew. Like I over plan. I always bring grandiose events out when our company is so small. But yet I want to be on the level of DJD. I want to be on the level of Alberta Ballet. But I don't see my company as small. I work hard to ensure that I can let other youths that are of my skin color see that they can also do it by being resilient. And I continue to push. As they close the door, I push harder. Because at the end of the day, I'm here in your space. And I'm here to continue to grow in your space. So whether you like it or not, I will do what I need to do to get there. And regarding the community, we started our Unganisha Diaspora and Community Engagement Project in 2017. And we've engaged with 40 plus community associations who are of African or Caribbean descent. And the work has been very diligent. Going into their spaces, allowing them to trust us. The transatlantic slave trade has caused a lot of discord between the African and Caribbeans because they don't trust us. They feel like we sold them out. They don't feel authentic. When they see us as they're the originals, we are the fake. So there's a lot of issues there. And we decided to take on that big mess. Went into their spaces, ensure they knew us, ensure that they saw that we're volunteering, ensure that they saw that we're inviting them to our events. All the productions I've had for Unganisha from the 2018 to the 2020 were in theaters in Calgary, probably owned by white people. But we brought Black people in those theaters, which is very rare. Why would Black people want to go and watch certain shows that doesn't really reflect them or give them any entitlement as Black people? So we did that. And we did it flawlessly to the point that it continued to grow, that more people wanted to be part of it, which is exactly what we wanted. People left there in tears. I've been Caribbean, I've been Jamaican for the past 40 something years, and I never knew this information. People were watching our production, and we were doing a step dance piece to social Rozsa from the South African continent, and people were bringing their fist up at us while we're performing because they felt what we were bringing to the stage was something that resided in them. And that is exactly what we want to do, be an agent of change. We are tired. We don't want to continue to be slaved around. We want to be able to be in your space and teach you how to treat us. And we want you to be respectful and allow that growth to happen in you to be able to allow us to create. Thank you.
Thank you. Something that I saw that was incredible to me, Wunmi, that you did was, I know that you had a mixer of over 140 Black professionals in a professional mixer. So there were business owners, there were this incredible diverse group of people. And I remember when you were sharing with me about how events like that and that kind of thinking helped to build people's rapport with the company and the show. And it makes me excited because I go, I know the thing that we are all craving is possible, and it's actually already happening. It's just not on the radar of some of the places where I thought it was. So I acknowledge, I just want to acknowledge you, and I want to acknowledge everybody within our cousinship who is finding ways to create our own space and to find the safety that we have not been given, that we were promised. It is not easy work. And I want to acknowledge that labor. And I want to acknowledge Pam. Pam, if you could have a superpower to let these people know what's the business, what would the superpower be?
Well, one superpower would be to heal their white supremacy body trauma faster, because it's gonna take time, and that in that for, I hate the word leadership. It makes me so angry these days because people assume what kind of, like, the concept of leadership is like the way people are using it is colonial, right? The way they're just like, within our arts community, that's deeply frustrating. I feel a charge, I'm going to let that charge go, which is that, like, I would love to somehow drop into all the administration, arts professionals, and artistic leadership, executive and boards of these white-led organizations that hold all the resources for the arts in our community, to understand that their unwillingness to relinquish their individual power is perpetuating systemic racism, and in fact is holding us back from actually having a just future. This is the real thing that we need to deal with. I have deep compassion for all arts workers because we just live in scarcity. But the fact that we do not have BIPOC staff, curators, artistic lead producers who are able to mindfully have equity and anti-racist lens in order to make sure that our artists are actually safer, have lines of communication to make reporting, have a way to not do what all of us just described, experienced in our younger ages. So that's like a superpower would be to ask people to actually internalize that and deal with it and do the right thing. And make sure there's a way for the color spectrum and knowledge on their teams to change so that we can implement new models that are equitable.
Thank you, Pam. That's Makambe again. I'm hearing a lot of craving for leadership to show up and to actually serve. One of my greatest mentors, Catherine Hernandez. Apparently this is the I'm Obsessed with Catherine Hernandez show, but that is a show that's worth having, because I know that when, like, the leaders I really respect are in service. They don't make other people be in service to them. They make themselves, the power that they have, the ability that they have to connect with different people, spaces, resources, serve the whole community. To be honest, y'all, I feel like a lot of white people in artistic leadership, and I want to bust the myth that like these conversations are also happening in Toronto. So as a Calgary artist, I thought that Toronto was going to be like the wokest place that I've ever been, and it's not. The same exact conversations are happening here. I've just been privileged to find my people and start to work with my people, so I haven't been like traumatized in the last year for the first time in forever. So we've talked a lot about leadership, and I definitely feel like leaders, like white leaders, have not shown up. And to be honest with y'all, I think it's one of two things. Either they're just like super mean and evil and just want to like keep us down, or they actually don't even know how. So if they don't know how, then I go, are you qualified for your job? If your job is to be able to serve the community, and there are several people who are of different cultures, so let's say all white people were happy, and that's not even true. We all know that's not even true. Let's say all white people were happy, and all people of the global majority were unhappy. So if you're only serving one little percentage of the world, if that's all you're able to do from your lens, are you doing your job properly? Because I'm a member of the community, and I don't feel like you even know how to handle me. So are you qualified to do your job? The world has changed. Our needs are stronger than ever. Our voices are stronger than ever. And our willingness to walk away is just on a new level right now. So I would, an extra superpower to just really make people ask themselves, like, are you doing the thing that you said that you were going to do? Something that was really significant to me is that Catherine Hernandez is stepping down from Be Current. Instead of writing a Black Lives Matter solidarity statement, she wrote a resignation letter. She said, Be Current was founded 26 years ago by Audrey Zina Mandiela, a Black woman, to do Black work. In the last few years, it has been open to other people of the global majority, but Catherine said, it was always my intention to support this company for a certain amount of years. I had specific goals about things that I could do with the structure of the company, but I have always wanted to pass the buck on to a Black or Indigenous woman. I called her on the phone crying because I was like, you're the only person who's believed in me. Like, maybe you shouldn't go. And she said, I don't think she'd mind me sharing this, but she said, Makambe, she said a lot of things, but she said, Makambe, the feeling that I get when I program a show like yours, the feeling that I get when I can support an artist who is not getting an opportunity before, the feeling that I get when I open up a paycheck, that magic, she said, I want a Black or Indigenous woman to feel that too. And this is a woman who is queer, of color, and living with a disability. And if she, who is not privileged, has the ability to make space for others, what are these Chads doing? What are leadership? Every single person that I'm looking at right now is a leader. Every cousin who is watching, if you're the only person of the global majority in your class at theater school, trust me, you are a leader. I know it doesn't feel like it, and I know that you might feel disempowered, but I'm telling you, whatever it is that you wish to do, the fact that you're even doing this, you're a leader. Caleigh, I'd like to talk to you about leadership. You said that, I just love listening to you talk about the way you want to do your own thing. Can you talk a little bit about the decision that you made to go your own road instead of trying to rely on other theater companies? And what has been the most exciting and fruitful and encouraging part of that journey?
Sure, thanks for the question. This is Caleigh Crow speaking. It originally wasn't my decision or our decision. I work very closely with my brother, Colin. We had big dreams. I'll speak for myself. I had big dreams of being on the ATP stage and starring in my own show and directing and all the wonderful stuff. And it just straight up never happened. And we thought, well, we'll just do it ourselves. We attended the Raucous Caucus workshop on self-producing, and the first piece of advice they gave us was not to self-produce. So that really pissed me off. I had gone there to learn how to do it. We originally had no access to any federal, provincial, or municipal funding. We are both working class artists. I work retail. I used to clean houses. And that has supported our theater company. So something Zach said that really resonated with me was the output and the pace is not going to be the same. That was hard for me to wrap my head around when I first started doing it. We still play to audiences of about 10. If we're known at all, we're probably known as the bake sale company because we fund our shows with bake sales. My brother started a gardening company, and all the money from the gardening company went to our shows. So we were selling our labor to the ruling class so that we could make a space for ourselves. It was really difficult in those early years to find strength to keep doing it. I'll be honest, it's really hard. I had to adjust my expectations a lot. But in the 8 years since we've been doing this, I have felt so creatively fulfilled. I'm choking up. I've had people, our last show, Born Again Crow, someone came up to me and said, I've never seen a play before. I didn't know this is what theater was. And I'm clinging to that person for the rest of my life. I have my group of my 10 audience people who come and see every show, and I have grown to love them so much. Anyone who's ever, we ask for a ton of help. We need a lot of help. We do maybe a show a year, maybe, and I have to quit my job and put myself in financial strife every time to do it. And it is so fucking worth it. Like, you don't even know you have the strength until you go through the shit, right? Everybody here has had those kinds of really tough personal character challenges where you're like, what kind of artist am I? Am I someone who needs to be legitimized by anybody? Am I an artist all the time or only when I'm getting paid? Am I an artist with one person in the audience, or do I need, what's the number? I had to come up to all these walls myself. And so it wasn't really a decision we made. It was just, we were being oppressed. And once we realized none of this is our fault, we don't need anybody's help that doesn't want to help us. We find our people. Makambe, you said you found your people. That is the most important thing. I even forget what your original question was. I just went off on the rails there. But I'll kind of close it out by just saying, like, if you're scared of taking on this work, I am available for these questions. Anybody who's listening, anyone who wants to know more about our company and what we do, I really encourage you to Google Colin Wolfe PactCon 2019. He made an amazing speech 1 year ago that beautifully outlines what we do at our company, the experiences we've had with the white establishment, the bourgeois establishment. And he also had a list on there of 10 things that artistic directors can do right now to help BIPOC creators in their cities. Simple things like, if your rehearsal hall is empty for an afternoon, open it up so that we can have a meeting. If you have a Wi-Fi connection and a printer, let us use it. These little steps go a long way for small creators like myself, who we do all of our work. I do it in this room here. And really, if someone tells you no, this has been said, but you just have to brush it off and remember that you are a creative person and you're doing this for your soul. Like, there's something that has to get out and be communicated to the people, however many they are, that want to listen. We started at audiences of 2 and now we're at 10. And I'm like, hell yeah, we are doing this. It's always going to have its challenges, but really, I encourage everyone to produce their own work all the time. Yep, I have to work a shitty retail job. I accept that. You know, if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do. I encourage everyone to look inside and just set those boundaries for yourself. What do I have to do? What can I do? And what can I expect? And really, really open those up to all kinds of possibilities. You don't need a lot to do it. We do a series of shows in this apartment. Maybe someone has seen a play in this very room. It's all possible. I want to tell you all, everything is possible. Believe in yourself. And I love you all. I'm so happy now. I was sad before. Now I've talked myself up into a real inspired mood here. Again, I don't know if that answers your question, but I'll just end it there. Thank you.
Really, thank you for sharing that. I would like to acknowledge you for building a consistent subscriber base. I can't do math, so I won't embarrass myself. But to go from 2 multiplied by 5, what you have done, I know that it feels like a small amount of people, but let's take away colonial mentalities for a second. What is in those meat sacks, in those bodies, is spirits. Those energies go into the community and they spread out to other people. Every single body, you are literally, it's not that you're just doing a play for that person. You're also doing it for their ancestry. 7 generations this way, 7 generations that way. And like 10 sounds like a small number, but it's huge when you are actually having impact. And I want to acknowledge you for growing that. The logic and the way that you have done that, friend, imagine if I gave you $100,000, right? That, and like what, like I just go like this amounts of community connection. When I think of like all the beautiful intersections living within your spirit and your body that we need, if like, I would like, let's imagine a world where Caleigh does not have to like work a retail job. Like, let's imagine a world where Caleigh wakes up and has a space wherever she wants to have it. And she had, what is the operating budget of a theater company? Oh, I don't know how money works, but it's weirdly a lot more than when you're working as an independent person trying to figure out, like I did the same thing for Chitenge Story. I like used my cafe money to rent out the West Village Theater for my first, like if I can do that with no resources and the way that we can connect with people, much less when we get this money, we're about to get this money. So I want to acknowledge you, and I want to acknowledge everybody who is doing that within their own right. That's incredible. And what is making me excited is feeling like I'm not alone. I feel like, these stories, I've been carrying them by myself, and it's so life-giving to be with all of you at this time and to know that we're not alone. So I'm putting out a call out to all cousins. Cousins, know that you're not the only cousin out there. Let us connect and really nurture and support each other. Let's show up to each other's stuff. let's find ways to create the artistic landscape that we want to create, because we have been having this conversation with white people since the dawn of time. Our elders have been having this conversation. The land has been having this conversation. Me, I'm tired. Me, I've already found my people. I'm looking at them. And some of those people, they're very white. They are white people, some of them, some of the allies who I trust deeply. Like, I just want to make art with my cousins and the people who agree with me and my cousins. And so I think that everyone staring back at me on this screen right now and everybody tuning in, I feel your energy. We're not just about to do it, we are doing it. This is a step within finding our connection, and I'm excited. Something that I said, I know that we've spoken about white people a lot, but this is not a panel that centers whiteness and does not center, we don't center white fragility or feelings. That's why we just came to spill tea. So let's stand in our truth and our honesty 100%. When we're on stage, when we are on the page, we are in that truth. So let us have that truth in our interactions, in the ways in which we engage with the existing structures. My heart is just like exploding with our possibilities now that we are in this special time and space. I know that we will not waste this energy. I want to ask Chantelle. Chantelle, you are on the panel, and you little sneaky self, you were one of the organizers of this event. So I was wondering if you could please talk a little bit about what the inspiration was to create, from your particular perspective, to create this space to have a conversation about the arts landscape of Mohkinstsis, knowing that you have moved away. What is it that you were craving from this circle today? And is there anything else that you'd like to share?
It's Chantelle Han again. Thank you, Makambe. And I'm really honored to be considered one of the organizers. I would say that Thomas, Kiana, Mike, and Jenna have done incredible work, and a lot more than I have. What I have been craving, and perhaps not on this level as a panel, was community with each of you. And so some of you I have spoken to privately about your experiences, and am hoping in some way, because of my positionality of no longer being based here, I can speak on your behalf somewhere that you feel invested in a different way than I am. And the stakes are higher because you live here. You're going to be staying here. If there's something I can do to speak up for you where you don't feel comfortable or you don't have the access, I am so happy to do that. And that offer still stands. I think for one thing, I just want to express that what I'm craving within us, because again, this is not a white-centered conversation, is to keep having these conversations, keep doing what we're already doing, watch each other's work. And for myself, I can say that what I have to offer any of you anytime is, if you are working on an audition or a self-tape, you need a reader, anyone to talk to or bounce ideas off of, or just discuss what's going on with you in the community, or what was it like working with this person or that person. I'm so happy to be here for that. And really, for my purposes today, I just want to support you all, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much. That's it.
Thanks, cousin. I am buoyed by all of you, and I stand with all of you in your pain and your joy. We matter. We are here. We have always been here, and I'm excited to create a future that looks like us and looks like the way that we want it to look. I cannot believe we are almost at the end of our time. I feel like this has completely flown by, and I feel like we've only been speaking for like 10 minutes. There is so much more to be said, so much more to be released, so much more to be healed. And I know that we will continue to do that both together and individually and in our different circles. So I want to acknowledge and give thanks for that. I also want to just let all of the cousins watching know that, like, you, just remind you, like, you are supported, you are loved. There is so much generosity that so many of us have given to white people that they didn't get. So, like, we just don't give it to the family now. So for me, in terms of consulting, for me personally, if any, you know, white artists want me to come and consult for them, I would love to do that. I charge $120 per hour. So, like, if you are cool with getting an invoice at the end of our coffee date, mksimamba@gmail.com. If you are a cousin of the global majority and you want to have a conversation, I'm doing a special rate where it's $120 off. So you can just slide in my DMs. It's cool. I got you. I got you. We are almost at the end of our time, but I would like to first acknowledge our ancestors. There are so many different parts of this globe that are gathered in this circle today. I want to acknowledge the original keepers of the land we are on. I want to acknowledge the responsibilities that we have to take up to take care of the land, take care of the people whose land we are on, what that means, and to really engage in that critically. Because when I think about Black liberation, I feel like that solidarity piece of all of us who need to move forward, like, it doesn't count if it's not for everyone. So I'm just really feeling a sense of, like, I want to acknowledge the earth on which we gather. I want to acknowledge everyone who came before us and gave us the strength to speak, because these were not easy stories to tell. And the reason that so many people do not know these stories is that it was not an easy thing. So I want to acknowledge the support, both of the circle and for people on the other side, to let us know that it's okay to speak and what has happened matters, and we are no longer protecting the people who did not protect us. I want to thank the organizers of this litty ass circle, including Thomas, Thomas Geddes. Thanks for being on the back end and for all of the work that you have poured in, my friend. I see you. Kiana Wu, Mike Tan, Jenna Rogers, Chantelle I mentioned. I want to thank Jillian and Marcia, who are here helping us, helping through with the ASL interpretation and Inside Out Theater. I want to give big love and lotion to Chromatic Theater for always just like coming through. I want to shout out, everybody's individual practices and everybody's companies, including Thumbs Up Good Work, including Wowzo Dance Collective, including the Ellipsis Tree Collective, which gave me my first professional gig when I finished university, Adventures of a Black Girl in Search of God, as well as Equity and Diversity. I want to, I'd like to end on a question that is like super close to my heart, but I'm biased because I made it up. But something that I do when my heart is tender and I'm looking to sort of like uplift or sort of reflect is I think of my 7-year-old self. I think of little baby Makambe, and I think about some advice that she really needed to hear. And when I tap into that little being, that sensitive little chocolatey child in the African sun who just didn't know what she was doing, and I give her advice, I find that me at 30, I need to hear and listen to the same exact advice. So I would like to invite our 7-year-old selves, those beautiful, incredible, bright, sensitive, sharp, smart, sassy, soft spirits into this circle. Hi. Oh, I feel them. They're here. And present day folks, I would love for you to share in the same order as we did all of our intros. What is a piece of advice that you'd like to give to your 7-year-old self that your present day self would do well to hear? Pam.
I would say to wee little Pam, your voice matters and that you have the permission to expand and take as much space as you need to be your full humanity. That.
This is Tenaj here. If little 7-year-old Tenaj, who just pretty much was just about ready to come to Canada, if I was talking to him, I would say, you don't have to make yourself smaller. You don't have to fit in. You don't have to try to blend in to make sure that, you know, you shine for who you are. You keep doing what you need to do because you're great.
This is Zach speaking again. I would tell 7-year-old Zach not to waste time wishing he was white. I'm done.
It's Wunmi. I would tell 7-year-old Wunmi to continue to live for justice and to continue to move boldly in the space that you're creating for yourself.
This is Caleigh. Caleigh, you are right to question authority, be weird, and get weirder.
I would tell 7-year-old Jay that that there's people in your life that tell you that you're not different. White people that tell you that you're not different, that you grew up poor, and that doesn't make you different, but it does. But those differences and all of those things make you brilliant, and that you need to work on making sure you tell people that you're brilliant.
I would tell 7-year-old Janelle, growing up in poverty in downtown Toronto in Regent Park, who never saw anyone that looked like her wanting to do the things that she wanted to, with that magic just ready to burst out, to never stop and never give up, because one day they will be forced to listen, because your voice and your message will be that loud and your light will be that bright. They cannot ignore you. Thank you.
Hey, it's Chantelle. I tell little Shawnee much the same as what you were saying. Take up way more space. You can, you're allowed. I felt like I was a lion that was squeaking, and that is not necessary. On a more practical side, I would say learn 69 languages, get an agent as soon as you get out of high school, but mostly take up more space. Thank you.
Makambe here. I would tell 7-year-old Makambe that every single thought and feeling you have is there for a reason that is bigger than you. So trust that, speak that, even though the people around you may not understand. Your skin is beautiful. Your hair is feminine. You are a medicine woman, and that medicine that you have in your pouch is the ability to tell stories. Thank you so much to every single one of you. I am honored to have been able to share space with you all. Everybody tuning in from wherever it is that you are in, thank you for your love. We feel your energy. To all of the cousins, you are not alone, not alone. We're in this together. We're going to prosper. Black people like making music because we are good at it. Thank you to everyone and have an incredible rest of your day. Bye.
Kicking the door, waving the fofo, cause we don't wanna be lynched no more. You can't kill our kids no more. Who you trying to put them shackles on? Emmett Till, Young Trayvon, Sandra Bland, and Eric Garner. Wait, protect this serve unless you black get killed on the curb. Systematic oppression, okay? Scared of all of that melanin, okay? Trying to get you out of your element. Fuck shit never resonate when the world built off the backs of slaves. Generations trying to numb the pain. Generations raised by the stream. I'm an animal. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. They call us animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. We some animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. They call us animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Ancestors thrown in them dungeons. Black folk being hunted. Got the mind as slaves. Slaves mind for diamonds. We buy the chains. I don't want your chains. I want them babies out of that grave. How much more can we take? Not a game, there's a lot at stake. We're talking about a whole race. The lost tribe, the lost faith. The wrath of God is in the rain. The floods is coming 40 days. A sinner praying for her ways. We at war for our race. No, we can't turn the page. It's time for them to feel our pain. Start a riot, let it burn. Ring a tang. Wonder why we going crazy. They took Pac, Biggie, Pip, and Nipsey. The devil's been busy. We want all the smoke like a chimney. Never back down as you with me. Ride for the tribe. Never sell out for no hype. Never said, oh, we gon' fight. Stand up for our rights. That's the shit they don't like. It's time for us to unite. Can't turn a blind eye. We stay ready, pray to try it. Animal. I'm an animal. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. They call us animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. We some animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. They call us animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears.
Now, I'm not in the habit of taking orders from a machine.
Losing track of the time with your girl by the side, laying back in your ride as you coast. Living life, give up. Yeah, we like. Losing track of the time with your girl by the side, laying back in your ride as you coast. Disappear like a ghost. Yeah, we like. Vodka and spray. Yeah, it's sunny over here, better add some ice. We been chillin' all day while we party all night. Making music how we wanna, man, this shit is so tight. It's alright, yeah, it's alright. Only shade that we be throwing to avoid all the light. Sand from the beach reflecting, man, the sun is so bright. Get the fam over here, I'ma book 'em a flight. Cause we made it, celebrated, fresh cut, hella faded. Beautiful skin, melanated, who the best, they debating, we don't care. Cause they're highly opinionated, well we high on life, enjoying all of the basics. Toes in the sand, the breeze hitting our faces. We ain't even at the beach, this party inside the basement. The basement? Oh yeah, homie, we made it. You made it? Oh yeah, homie, we major. Losing track of the time with your girl by the side, laying back in your ride as you coast. Living life, give up. Yeah, we like. Losing track of the time with your girl by the side, laying back in your ride as you coast. Disappear like a ghost. Yeah, we like. All the places we could go when we ain't performing shows. We ain't even on the road in the city where they know who you are. Groupies round the car, fellas at the bar. Scream your name, steal your chain. You complain, you don't wanna be a star. No more, I beg. These parties, man, money's going straight to my head. Follow for follow, now I'm feeling very misled. Bottle for bottle, looking for the message. I'm lost, X mark the spot. We ain't talking a minute, but I'm saying a lot. Like how I miss her, then dismiss her, man, I'm savage and she shocked. But she heard that I'm famous, so we going round the block to where she live. We ain't make it to the crib, I just parked it in the lot. Vroom vroom. Then got a call from the label saying that my project just flopped. Wait, what? Losing track of the time with your girl by the side, laying back in your ride as you coast. Living life, give up. Yeah, we like. Losing track of the time with your girl by the side, laying back in your ride as you coast. Disappear like a ghost. Yeah, we like.
There is the sign of life.
shit no more. Kicking the door, waving the fofo, cause we don't wanna be lynched no more. You can't kill our kids no more. Who you trying to put them shackles on? Emmett Till, Young Trayvon, Sandra Bland, and Eric Garner. Wait, protect this serve unless you black get killed on the curb. Systematic oppression, okay. Scared of all of that melanin, okay. Trying to get you out of your element. Fuck shit never resonate when the world built off the backs of slaves. Generations trying to numb the pain. Generations raised by the animal. I'm an animal. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. They call us animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. We some animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. They call us animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Ancestors thrown in them dungeons. Black folk being hunted. Got the mind in slaves. Slaves mind for diamonds. We buy the chains. I don't want your chains. I want them babies out of that grave. How much more can we take? Not a game, there's a lot at stake. We're talking about a whole race. The lost tribe, the lost faith. The wrath of God is in the rain. The floods is coming 40 days. But sin are praying for her ways. We at war for our race. No, we can't turn the page. It's time for them to feel our pain. Start a riot, let it burn. Orangutan. Wonder why we going crazy. They took Pac, Biggie, Pip, and Nipsey. The devil's been busy. We want all the smoke like a chimney. Never back down as you with me. Ride for the tribe. Never sell out for no hype. Never said, oh, we gon' fight. Stand up for our rights. That's the shit they don't like. It's time for us to unite. Can't turn a blind eye. We stay ready, pray to try it. Animal. I'm an animal. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. They call us animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. We some animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears. Animals. They call us animals. Lions, tigers, and bears. Lions, tigers, and bears.